What we know is that the attack on diversity, equity, and inclusion, DEI, is an attack on democracy, it's an attack on education, it's an attack on how our economy works.
How's everybody doing? My name is Anthony Brian Logan, and today we got to talk about two-time failed gubernatorial candidate from Georgia, Stacey Abrams, saying that the attack on diversity, equity, and inclusion, also known as DEI, is an attack on democracy itself. Now, this is a crazy take, a woke take, and it's part of the problem with DEI. Before we get to what that term really means, and before we get to what she said on MS-13 DNC with Al Sharpton, I'll say this. DEI is a thing mostly in the workplace. And in my humble opinion, you may or may not agree, it's fine. In my opinion, DEI places your identity, your skin color, and other things that don't really matter above productivity. Check it out. If I ask someone to bang this square peg into a round hole and someone can do it, I don't care who they are, what they identify as, if they're black, white, Puerto Rican, candy stripe. It doesn't really matter. Can you get the job done or no? I don't care what your pronouns are. I'm not trying to get sent to HR because I called you the wrong thing. You're looking like a big 6'8" basketball player and I call you sir. Excuse me for not knowing your pigtails meant that you're a woman. I'm sorry for not knowing that, okay? If I see LeBron James walk into a Cheesecake Factory, I'm going to say, hello, sir, how are you? If I'm a waiter, I'm not going to just think, ma'am. You understand? This kind of thing, in my opinion, is an extension of wokeness. And that's a really big issue all over the USA. Now, before we go any further into it, let's get into what Stacey Abrams said on the show in the clip. And of course, I will link to everything in the box. But without further ado, let's go ahead and roll it.
To be so dear.
You did a lot of work that laid the groundwork for Georgia to get the first two Democratic senators in a long time, first Jewish and first black senator ever.
She didn't do anything. The reason why they became senators, speaking about John Ossoff and Raphael Warnock, the reason why is because of the runoff election in which there was some issues with the election and somebody said, don't go out there and vote. I'm not saying who said it or who encouraged it to happen, but that's the reason why it happened, not because Stacey Abrams did anything. If she did so much work to help them win, why did she not win herself? Make that make sense, Mr. Al Sharpton.
Do you fear with all of the demagoguery and the real, I would say, base anti-women, anti-black, anti-Jewish kind of campaigning that we're seeing out of the Trumpsters?
Anti-everything. And, you know, the funny thing, they're talking about anti-Jewish. I don't see, first of all, I don't see any evidence of anti-black, anti-Jew, anti-woman. I don't see any evidence of that. But you know where I do see evidence of being anti-Jew? I'm seeing these campuses all across the country, Columbia, Yale, etc., where you got Jews being assaulted by these so-called liberals, a lot of white liberals assaulting Jews. So who's the anti-Semite and who's not, Al Sharpton? But I'm getting triggered too early.
Do you fear that that could be wiped away if we're not alert and mobilize the base?
We have to remember that every victory, built into every victory, are the seeds of defeat. But also built into every defeat are the seeds of victory. We have seen victory, but we cannot rest on that victory and think that it is impermeable and impervious to harm. What we know is that the attack on diversity, equity, and inclusion, DEI, is an attack on democracy, it's an attack on education, it's an attack on how our economy works, because what Reverend Warnock and John Ossoff, what Senator Ossoff and Senator Warnock represent, are pathways to the American dream. They are proof points. And those proof points scare those who want this world to be more narrow and more restrictive.
Before we continue, this is a bunch of word salad. I mean, if it was a salad, you're talking about no croutons, no dressing, no salt, no pepper, straight up iceberg lettuce. All right. Straight non-nutritional word salad. That's what's happening right now with this response from Stacey Abrams.
And so we have to recognize that our opportunity to hold to those successes requires our constant attention, our constant tending. You know, voting is not magic. Voting is medicine. but it also means that it's a constant engagement, that we can't have a moment of success. We have to keep working constantly at moving ourselves forward.
So that was Stacey Abrams and her explanation about DEI and all the woke word salad that you ever want to have in your entire life. That might have been an overdose of woke word salad for you. But the whole thing with DEI is just a bunch of BS in the workplace that, in my opinion, again, does not contribute to productivity. She's talking about it's an assault on how the economy works. The economy, look, you produce things, you sell things. That's the economy. Anything beyond that, I'm not sure what we're talking about. Now, let's get to this video from John Stossel. This kind of explains DEI. We're not going to check out the entire thing, but we're going to get through a little bit of it to give you some more context, because it's kind of a buzzword to many people. Sometimes it's used improperly, but it is a thing to be concerned about, especially, again, in the workplace specifically. Check it out.
Equity and inclusion are everyone's responsibility.
DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion. That sounds nice and responsible. No wonder all big companies now require employees to get training in it.
Because we understand that racial and systemic bias have many causes, sources, and ways of showing up within each of us.
Remember that whole thing with Starbucks? Oh, this was one of the early examples that I can remember as far as modern, quote unquote, DEI. Remember, there was two guys in the Starbucks, I think it was in Philly, and then they were just kind of in there chilling, not doing anything. And I think one of them tried to use the bathroom, but they were denied because they were just in there loitering to a certain extent, not buying anything, just chilling. So then it became this whole thing about it being race involved. And then it was, okay, let's open the bathroom to everybody. So now you got people in there smoking crack, shooting heroin, a little bit of everything. Maybe the bathroom is closed to certain people because they know what's going to happen when they go in there. People in there living in the bathroom, homeless people taking showers, smoking crack. There's reasons why certain rules exist. It's not just because of so-called racism. But again, that is an example of DEI and how it affects the workplace in a negative way. Because you want to be woke, because you want to be inclusive, now your bathroom must be a rest haven for dope fiends.
Even if that's true, do you know what American companies now do to address it? Some make ritual apologies for America's past.
We want to acknowledge that the land where the Microsoft campus is situated was traditionally occupied by the Sammamish.
By proclaiming guilt.
I remember that. I remember this video too. Okay, this was, the context here was, it was like a regular presentation. So they started the presentation, which was not about the particular native tribe she was speaking about. They had to begin it by saying that. That's how it affects the workplace. Now, explain to me how that's going to help productivity. Please, somebody help me. And how is that going to help anybody with anything? Okay, maybe a couple of guys from that tribe might feel appreciated, I suppose, but how is it really going to help anything moving forward?
Companies try to signal that now they're virtuous.
The Snohomish, the Tulalip.
It's nice to apologize.
Yes, but what is it really doing?
Eric Smith was a diversity officer at Drew University. Now he teaches at York College. Why'd you stop being a diversity officer?
I just thought it was a useless thing. There's a better way to go about doing this.
Diversity and inclusion.
Useless or not, companies continue to pay big money for training.
It's big money in the training. And this is why, part of the reason why it continues, because there's a big bag of money. There's a pot at the end of the rainbow for people that perpetuate this kind of woke thing.
There's a whole industry now designed to cater to companies looking for a quick way to check that box. In the U.S. in 2020, DEI was a $3.4 billion industry.
Wow, my. Look at that. 3.4 billion with a B. Okay, $3.4 billion industry. Now, when Stacey Abrams says that it's an attack on democracy, you got to ask yourself, is she somehow being compensated to say that? How many talks has Stacey Abrams done on this issue? The speaking engagement circuit is very lucrative. I know when I get offered to do certain things, and who am I? I'm not a person that ran for governor and got my head stomped in twice in Georgia. I'm just a guy in my upper bedroom making videos. I know how much I get offered, so how much is she getting offered to support a thing like DEI? I'm just asking the question, not making the accusation.
Industry.
Every big company.
They feel like they have to. They have to say something. They have to signal to the world that they're doing something.
Is it effective?
No. In fact, it seems to be doing worse. It seems to be making people less likely to interact with people who are unlike them, because it's like a minefield now.
Less likely to interact.
After a training where you hear things about microaggressions, if you ask somebody what they do for a living, somehow that's racist, right? If you learn that, then why would you take a chance?
I better not talk to Eric because I might say something wrong.
Precisely. So now inclusion means I'm going to silence myself and not talk to the black people.
All white people are racist.
Some train.
I remember this one too. There's been so many videos. It goes on and on and on. I won't go too far into it, but this is kind of where we at. You creating the bad environment, a toxic work environment, all in the name of trying to be more woke, be more inclusive, making things worse. It's just a big industry. It's a grift, and it does not help anybody with anything. And again, especially the bottom line, that productivity. If you're not increasing productivity, and in some cases you may decrease productivity, you got to ask, why is it happening? Maybe because it's an industry behind it. Maybe because people don't want to be seen as somehow racist. The peak of this, as I close, might have been on the George Floyd, hands up, don't shoot, that whole thing, where you had companies getting boycotted if they didn't kind of just, kiss the ring of wokeness. But now DEI programs are shutting down. It's like when they ramped up production for TV shows and movies during C-19. There's no need for that anymore. Same thing with the tech industry. They're hiring a bunch of guys during C-19 because everybody's at home using the technology. Now we don't need it. So, okay, bye. You guys can go ahead and go about your business. Same thing with DEI. It's facing the same thing. Phasing these programs out is actually good. It's not a threat to democracy, Stacey Abrams, but I think I'll leave that right there for now. And what say you? What's your take on DEI? Are you a fan, not a fan? Whatever your thoughts are, let me know in the comments below. You guys know where I'm at. I hope that DEI just goes away and does not come back. I'm all about merit. Are you good at your job? I don't care what you look like. You can identify as the last train to Paris, a puff of train smoke. It doesn't really matter. Can you do this task? And also, at a certain point, you got to get along with people. You can't be coming to work smelling like yesterday's bad news, okay? Be a team player to a certain extent, but your personal life and what you do, that's not really my business. I don't really care about your color, what you do. Can you get the job done? And do you behave in the office? Some basic things. If I had a team of employees, that'd be what I would ask of you. Very simple. All the DEI stuff does not help anybody. If anything, it hurts the workplace. But whatever your thoughts are, please let me know in the comments below. And that's all I got to say for this video. If you like what you heard, please comment, rate, share, and subscribe. Peace.